Hey, good day guys. Hey, have you ever wondered why no one tells you all their secrets of their gardening? Well, it's probably because they've forgotten. Now, I'm pretty new to setting up garden beds and gardening, but I've stumbled across a few things that I wish that someone had told me. So here's my top 6 things that I wish someone had told me as a new gardener. So my name's Paul Grambow and I'm from A Bit Greener Farms. So we're here on the beautiful Sunshine Coast Farm here in Australia, just in Queensland. So it's kind of a subtropical farm, and we've just set up these beds not too long ago. Behind you see that we're just starting to plant them out with some lettuce and cucumbers and things. So when I was setting up these beds, everyone kept telling me that you need to have a lot of organic matter. So I got a lot of I wanted to make use of our excess material that we had around here. So we're in an urban sort of fringe area. So there's a lot of subdivisions going along, and they're clearing a lot of this like beautiful bush that you can see behind us. Now what that generates is a lot of topsoil, because it doesn't compact, they don't want that. And so we got a lot of topsoil, and we got it for almost nothing. So when you're in a rural area, you can get like truckloads of this stuff if you know the right people to talk to. Now, it does look pretty fertile, but the problem is with this, if we have a look here, it's pretty sandy, it just breaks apart, no real substance to it, but fertile. So I thought I need some organic matter. So of course knocking down the trees to get the topsoil, so I got a lot of mulch with it as well. And so you can see all of this mulch that I got here. Now this is really coarse mulch from the trees, basically the whole tree, roots, stump, everything. Now if you have a look at this stuff, it's pretty coarse. Not sure if you can see that all right. There's bits of dirt into it. It's typically they leave it sit for a few months before they get around to do anything with it after they mulch it up. So it's kind of broken down a little bit. Now, what's that's done, I mixed that up with the topsoil in our bed prep. Put a bit of blood and bone in that as well, just a bit of fertile substance to it, and we laid that out. Looked pretty good when we did it, when we started, and I'll show you some videos on how we did that a bit later on. We'll do another video post, so make sure you subscribe, hey? So, and this is what our beds look like now. These are some of the seedlings that we planted out just last week. So if we have a look here, we can see it's still got a bit of that in it, but it's not so crumbly, not too bad. But it's just a bit annoying to plant in because of all those big chunks of wood that are in it. So if I had to do it again, I'd use a different supplier of mulch. So often when you tree loppers and things like that, they'll grind it up a little bit finer, and often you'll get, if you get the right load, it'll have a lot of leaf matter to it as well, which would be really good for nitrogen. So that's my first tip. Make sure when you're doing your bed prep, kind of screen it out a bit. Still get lots of organic matter in it, but make sure it's screened, because it'll save you annoyance planting out little seedlings in these big chunks of wood every now and then. So not ideal, but easily fixed. So my number 2 is I started doing some trellising for tomatoes, which is great, and I'll do a video on how these are our trellises for tomato. They're going great. But what I found is that as I was doing these, I was putting stakes in the, not sure if you can see this here, but right here there's little bamboo stakes I put in to hold the string onto. And I actually ran out of those. I got them from the, big store hardwares, and they came in typically looking, something like this. I actually ran out of those, and I thought, well, I want to reuse what I got around the place. So I found some bamboo, and I figured that's bamboo. I'll just chop up a bit of bamboo. So it looks a little bit like this stuff. Now the problem is, when I planted this, it was green, and as you can see, it started growing. So I don't want bamboo growing in my stuff. So that was a big waste of an hour's worth of work, just to try and save a little bit of coin. So next time, obviously they treat that bamboo so it doesn't grow, you know, in your garden beds and nurseries and things. So, you know, sometimes it's good to reuse what you got around the place, but in other times, you know, that savings, it's just not worth it. You know, try and save some money in some other areas. All right, let me try and think of what number 3 was. Got it, irrigation. All right, so we've done gardening a little bit before, and what we found is that everything really needs water, particularly not so much in subtropical when it rains a lot, but generally it needs water. And so I've got these sprinklers here. Now, I got 3 of them. I can see, maybe you can see 3 just sort of spread out that way. Problem is, I've got about, from our tank, we're in water, sort of rainwater, and so we have a pump. Now that pump's not a really expensive pump, just a shed pump, and we've got about say 50 meters of pipe. Now what I found is it wasn't enough pressure coming through. So 50 meters is, I don't know, in US, in feet, I don't know, what, about 150 feet or something like that. So now what I found, and a bit of research, thanks YouTube, is I was running just normal garden hose for 50 meters, thinking, well, the smaller the size is, the smaller the pipe size, you know, so that width there, it would allow more pressure to come through. So it's actually quite the opposite, as it turns out. So what I had to do was instead go and invest in some of this decent sort of size. There we go, you can see that decent size pipe, and I ran that for the 50 meters, and then I just had the tap going off to my other water supply just a bit closer to where the garden is. So that gave me heaps more pressure. Still can't run the 3 sprinklers, so I'm going to have to put that onto some sort of sequencing, so I can run about 2 sprinklers at a time. So that'll do for us, and it'll get us going. Let me just pause this while I think of the rest of them. Back in a sec. Hey, I figured out what number 4 was. So when we did the bed prep that we mentioned earlier on, with mixing in the mulch and the topsoil, what we found was we added a bit of blood and bone to that as well. Now I thought that was enough fertilizer, but our beds, as you can see them all down there, and by the way, if you want to rent some of these beds, contact me at abitgreenerfarms.com. I added that blood and bone in there to give it a bit more, you know, fertilizer, up and go. Now that seems to have leached through a bit while that bed's been sort of sitting there, or it's been consumed by a lot of the, maybe by the bark or the mulch that we put in there. So tip number, I don't know, I think we're at number 4, 5, is just before you, even though your beds have been done, just before you go and plant them out, make sure that you give them a rake over and give them a bit more sort of, you know, we just give another bit of a sprinkle of blood and bone, just because it's high in nitrogen, and these lettuces really need a lot of that. And so yeah, make sure you do bed prep just before you plant out, and it loosens up the soil and just gives them a much better start. So I reckon we're probably up to number 5. Now I've just got to go for a bit of a walk down the shed for this one. Now what we've done is, you know, we start off small with our seed raisings. We do a lot of transplanting. So all of our seeds are, we seed them in little tubes, and you know, we're just getting going on this. So we bought a lot of that mix from our big hardware stores. Very expensive doing it that way, by the way. And so, you know, that wasn't ideal. Costs a lot just to get the seeds grown, and the idea is to have your garden to give you produce that's fresh and local, but also you know, cheaper than what you can get it elsewhere. So what we ended up doing was we ended up going to our local, you know, get friendly with your local store that supplies to nurseries, because what they do, they have a lot of extra, they're used to supplying stuff in bulk. Now we got a few more bags of seed raising mix from them to do that, but what we found, and let me just grab it out, I'll be back. Actually, it was too much to bring out of the shed. So what we did find is that we could buy this stuff in bulk. So instead of the seed raising mix, this is compressed coconut coir, I think. It's basically, you know, fibrous coconut. Let me just see if I can get a zoom in on that. So you can see it's kind of, you know, just compressed. And you just mix that with a bit of water and it expands a lot. So what you see here will expand to about a cubic meter. I don't know what that is in cubic feet, sorry, too hard, but a lot, about 600 litres. So now what you do, mix that with a bit of perlite, and that gives basically that's all seed raising mix is. So, you know, we can get that. That's about 30 bucks for that whole bag. That's Australian 30 bucks, so US, I don't know, 18 bucks, something like that, depending on the exchange rate. And this coconut coir, you know, each block is probably about $15. So, you know, heaps cheaper doing it this way than buying the big bags of seed raising mix. So, tip number 5, get started on the seed raising mix, get all your systems and process worked out, but then, you know, swap over to do, you know, buy it a little bit cheaper by buying it in bulk and making it yourself. So, you know, there you go. Number 6, we need to go somewhere else. Actually, on the way to going to show you somewhere else, I actually came across an extra one. So we'll do 7 in this video, not 6. So heaps better than everyone else. So I showed you about the topsoil earlier on, and I tried to blend it up with a bit of that mulch, that tree sort of mulch, and do a bit of compost heap. That never really worked. Didn't get hot, so need to do a little bit something different here. So what we're going to do, we're going to get that topsoil. We're going to get a lot of that tree loppers wood chip, which have some leaf matter and things as well. And I got horse poo, so I don't buy it by the bag from Bunnings or you know, that's our local sort of big store hardware. I buy it by the trailer, straight from the farm. All right, so what we're going to do, we're going to mix all that. We'll chuck it in a cement mixer, and then we'll leave that sit for a little while because we don't want to use horse manure. That's horse manure back there. We don't want to use horse manure until it's aged a bit. So we're going to start prepping for the next lot of our garden beds by doing this and mixing it all up. So we'll get a really nice batch coming through for our next beds. So just walking past our beds, don't they look fantastic? All right, so I'm going to go up and show you where we're doing all of our seed raising, because there's some little tips that I got around that we found out the hard way. So we'll just wander up there. As we're wandering, we also buy sugarcane mulch in bulk. So once again, this is a big bale. We got 2 of those, and that's what ended up on our garden bed. Now, it's a bit coarse, you know, it's nice and dry, keeps the weeds away, but it's just a bit coarse. So it has some benefits, that it stops the wind from blowing it away. A little bit windy here, as you can see, but also keeps all the weeds out. Now you can get in a finer mix of that, but it tends to blow away. Now here's also, this is what I was talking about from the tree loppers mulch. So they come out here and they just dump this stuff for free. This is very much, have a lot of sort of leaf matter in it, which is good. And if we just have a look down a bit here, cane toads love it, by the way. I don't like cane toads. So you can kind of see it's broken down quite a bit, and I reckon that's going to be fantastic with our topsoil, the horse poo and that mixed together. So I reckon it's going to come together really well. We'll see how that one goes. We'll keep you updated. All right, I'm just going to wander up to our shed or onto our veranda, and we'll have a look at our seeds and our next top tip. All right guys, now we're back up here where we do all of our seed raising. So I wanted to show you a few things because they're really important, and here in Australia it's a little bit different than what we get, what a lot of the YouTube videos are saying. So let's just see. All right, I got to get down a little bit here. All right, so we do a lot of this, basically we just do it all on our veranda here. Now the reason why we do it along this stretch here is coming in from the side here is sun. Now that was the first thing that we made a mistake, because a lot of the YouTube videos were talking about we needed to raise our seeds in sort of, you know, darkness. Now that's not right for us. It just doesn't work. And what we found was these seeds here, now they were planted at the same time as those ones I showed you that we'd planted out already. Now they got off to a really bad start because they didn't get enough sun and they didn't get warm enough. So we just had them sitting in the shade thinking that was the right thing to do. But no, we put all of our seed raising mix with our seeds in it, and we keep it damp, but we keep it in full sun. Now it's about, I don't know, what, 27 degrees here during the day, so that's Celsius. No idea what that is in Fahrenheit, so, you know, but that's 27 Celsius, so it's not hot, not cold, sort of, you know, just nice temperature. So once it gets a bit warmer, I think we'll have a bit more issues, but, you know, it's going pretty good in this way. So as you can see there, you know, just a bit stunted. All right, so we actually got another issue going on here as well. And what it started from was, actually, you would have seen those lettuces that we had planted out. Now they were a little bit long and lanky. Now that all started going wrong because we didn't fertilize them. So the top tip that I can give you is once they start getting, I'm just trying to find one that's got a couple of leaves on it here. All right, let's have a look at this bunch here. So you can see these little ones. You know, they've just starting to get their, I think they call it true leaves. So, you know, I think that's when you'd probably want to just start fertilizing it with just a really light, you know, half strength of, these are lettuces, so sort of nitrogen-based thing. Actually, I think any nitrogen-based thing, because they really just want to grow at this stage. So once they get to that stage, make sure you give them some love, a bit of nitrogen, helps them along. Otherwise, they'll get all lanky and all horrible. They won't grow. And what you should be aiming for, I've actually started to get this going down pretty good. You can see, you know, these were just planted probably about 3 days ago. That's the other thing. On YouTube, they show things going so fast. Not the case for us. These are about 3 days old, you know. Little seeds that come through. These are cos lettuces, and you know, so they grow pretty quick from seed. But yeah, definitely not to the size that they say, you know, like here's one 4 weeks and it's like huge, and it's, you know, that's not us. It takes a little bit longer for where we are, so, you know, it varies. So make sure you have a look. If they start yellowing off or going, if they're a bit leggy, which means they're sort of heading towards the sun, really wanting sun, we rotate these around because the sun comes in on the same angle all the time. We flip the beds around because we find them sort of being drawn out towards the sun too. So make sure they get a bit of sun. It's my last tip. So anyway, hope you enjoyed. we're going to have a few of these videos happening on our farm. Please make sure you subscribe to us. It really helps us. And you know, if you do have any feedback, any comments, make sure you let us know. I'll have a read, and we'll, you know, try and adapt some of our future videos to what there is. So what's in the pipeline? As I said, we're going to show you how we made the beds. We've got some trellises down there. We're going to show you that stuff. Hopefully we'll do a harvest soon. And just general, lots of stuff that we come across that we think you'd probably benefit from knowing. So anyway, have a great day, and thanks for listening. See ya.